born on September 6th of 1934 in San Francisco to Swedish parents Ray, Uno, and Edith Tisell. Ray passed away suddenly in Lakeport, California on January 17th, 2024. In 1946, Ray's family moved to Nice, building a mini resort of 3 cabins on the lake. Ray attended Upper Lake High School and then went on to graduate from Mission High School in San Francisco. Ray's father was a longshoreman, and as work picked up on the waterfront, they spent time in both places, Nice and San Francisco. While living in Lake County, he hunted and had a trap line in the hills behind Nice, but his main passion was learning how things worked, a trait that followed him throughout his life. While in high school, he and his buddy Orrin were always on the lookout for old or abandoned cars they could take apart and rebuild. Ray worked many jobs as a young man. Though underaged at 15 and a half, he hired on with a convict crew to fight a massive ongoing fire behind Nice. He bought his first car, a Nash Ambassador, with his earnings. In the Bay Area, he drove a poultry delivery truck, delivering fresh chickens to San Francisco restaurants. He worked at the Pacific Railroad Company on Market Street, where he developed a love for skiing through company snow trips. He was hired as a seaman on a Swedish ship. Sailing took him to Europe, where he bought a motorcycle and took time exploring Scandinavia, visited friends, and learned Swedish. Once returning to San Francisco, he continued sailing as a merchant marine while studying for his marine engineer's license. Ray bought his first walnut orchard in Kelseyville at the age of 22. Walnuts became an ever-growing part of his life, and harvest season a family-centered event. In 1960, he married his first wife, Berit Erikson. Rather than being out at sea while raising a family, Ray began his career in construction. He became a carpenter, a contractor, and then a spec home builder. They lived in homes Ray built in Daly City with their children Diana and Steve. They were very socially active in the Scandinavian community. Then in 1989, he married his second wife of 35 years, Irene Williamson. They started a family and lived in the home Ray built in Hillsborough. Ray and Irene had 3 children, Leif, Ingrid, and Lars. Ray had 2 brothers, Roy and Nils. Throughout their lives, summering in Lake County was a given to the Tisell brothers and their families. They made their own water skis and spent weekends skiing and boating before it was a popular sport. In the fall, the family gathered for walnut harvest. Early in 2001, Ray came across a property that caught his eye, whose history he knew. Plans developed, and Ray, Irene, and their children made the move to Lake County. Ray was a multifaceted man, many talents and interests: water and snow skiing, painting, photography, music, landscaping, absorbing information, in his case, reading. He was an entrepreneur with an inquisitive mind and was always learning. As he always said, you learn something new on every job. He had working man's hands, but could do precision work. You name it, he could do it. He had an uncanny perception of people and a soft spot for animals. Ray loved and was loved. He will be fondly remembered for his practical outlook and experience, many stories, and sage advice. Ray was truly a one-of-a-kind person who will be sorely missed. Ray is survived by his wife, Irene, children, Diana, Steve, Leif, Ingrid, and Lars, his grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, and by a whole lot of friends who I'm looking out at today. And what a gift. Because friends, as we know, are family. They're the ones we choose. Now, another hymn that his family selected is Abide With Me. It's number 700 in the red hymn book. It will also be on the screen, and we ask that you rise and join us. Thank you. You may be seated. We're going to have a time of remembrances here, and I know that people aren't always comfortable speaking in front of crowds, big crowds, but we've got a couple options. You can, if you'd like to share, we're going to hand you the microphone. You don't even need to come up here. But we're also going to have a wonderful lunch prepared for you, and we'll have an option to share in there. So it's really wherever you are most comfortable. So please don't feel like this is the only chance you have to share about Ray. But we do want to offer some opportunity now. And Lars is going to start off for us.
Thank you all for coming. We all knew my dad by different names: Captain Fearless, Uncle Ray, Farfar, Muffa, Ray, or Dad. Honestly, I don't know where to start when it comes to speaking about his life. There are just too many things worth saying about my dad. Many of you in this room were lucky enough to have a little bit of more time with him than I did, but I'm sure you all have plenty of fond memories and stories from his early life. But I knew him from his later life. So I'll keep this fairly brief, and I'll just share my thoughts on him and how I knew him. When I was born, my dad was already a seasoned gentleman, let's call it. He was born in 1934, I was born in 1996. That's a 62-year difference. And that difference was noticeable. While in kindergarten and first grade, my dad would often drop me off and pick me up from school. Other school children would often ask if he were my grandpa. And I would say, no, he's my dad. And when they'd ask how old he was, I would answer with the number that my dad would tell me. He's 100. I still remember the looks on the faces of the other kids. Eyes wide open and jaws dropped, they would repeat, he's 100? My dad had a sense of humor and he liked to play around with people. The irony is, however, as I grew older and learned my dad's real age, when asked the same question in similar situation by friends or work colleagues, I would say whatever age he was, and they'd all remark about how much younger he looked and how able-bodied he was in comparison to anybody else they knew of that age. Although most people probably just chalked it up to good lucky genes, it was a compliment I took pride in. But for my dad, it wasn't luck or good genes, it was something simple. See, according to him, he had discovered early on in the elixir to a youthful life: hard physical work and oatmeal. I can't even begin to tell you how much damn oatmeal that man fed us. I noticed at a young age that my dad always seemed to be working. He believed in the value of hard work, and he would try hard to instill those values of work ethic onto us by two methods. One was through his many maxims he would often share with us. For example, he would say, take care of business first, then relax. Or, there's no free lunch. The second method of his was much more simple. He would simply put us to work. We'd move water pipes in his walnut orchard every day in the summer, then pick walnuts by hand in the fall, or we'd be put to work on one of his many landscaping projects around the house. Simple jobs, usually requiring a wheelbarrow and a shovel, moving dirt here, pavers there. In one instance, none of us kids were strong enough to take a wheelbarrow full of dirt up a small hill. What was my dad's solution? He tied a rope onto the front and had two kids pull while the other one pushed. I mean, he could have bought a tractor or done it himself, but instead used work as an opportunity to teach us, to strengthen us, and to spend time with us. I won't lie, it was drudgery for us back then, but now these memories hold a special place in my heart. My dad taught me how to work. Last fall, I was lucky enough to do one last project with my dad. We framed a new roof over the family home. Whenever we have a disagreement on how a certain part should be done, he would always smile and look at me. Don't worry, Lars, we're not building a piano here. During the project, he ended up getting sick with COVID. Do you think I was able to keep him off the roof? Absolutely not. Every day he mustered up enough energy to climb onto that roof and swing a hammer. This is who my dad was. If there was something to be done, he would do it. Even in his late 80s, nobody could keep him from climbing on top of a roof. My dad would often quote that old proverb, if you enjoy your work, you'll never work a day in your life. And my dad loved to work, and he worked until the day he died. And I don't think he'd have it any other way. My dad was a man of many hats. He was a seaman, a carpenter and contractor, a shade tree mechanic, a small-scale real estate developer and investor, a landlord, and a farmer. He had a love for music and had taught himself how to play the piano. He truly was a jack of all trades and master of most of them. He read constantly and he had a love for knowledge. I always was impressed with how much he knew about practically anything mechanical and building related. Working in the trades myself, I would call him up from time to time when I had a conundrum, and I would explain the situation, a building detail I needed help with, or just for general advice. And without skipping a beat, he would know exactly what to do. The amount of information that man could keep in his head was incredible. From explaining how a thermocouple switch or transmission works to how to lay out a house on a steep hillside, he knew it all, and he loved to share it too. In just a few short months since he's passed, I can't tell you how many times I thought, if only I could call him again, he would know what to do. There's a ton more to be said about my dad, and to summarize his life in the eulogy is not nearly adequate for a man of his caliber. But what else could I say at this point? I love my dad, and I miss him every day. With his grit, determination, abilities, compassion, and wisdom, he was not just a father for me, but also a father figure. And if I could become half the man that he was, it will be a life well spent. Thank you.
Yeah, so, I don't know, I used to hold up the mic. If you can't hear me, let me know.
Oh, is that better?
Well, Lars pretty much said everything. Well, there's always more. There's far too much to say and share about Ray. As a man, he had integrity, doggedness, perseverance, tenacity, and a sense of duty, compassion, and a sense of understanding. He could do anything he set his mind on to do. If something needed to be fixed, he figured it out without YouTube. He didn't have that then, right? So, okay. As a husband and a father, he was loyal, consistent, steady, sometimes a little insistent, but loving. All this and his love for music, the piano, which was big, and his aptitude for learning is his legacy. And Lars mentioned something about the landlord. We do have some tenants here, and some that couldn't come. I just want to read you one, though I had several people responding. Dear Irene, I want you to know how much we loved Ray. He was the best landlord I have ever had, and was a very warm person. DeMarco and I actually called him Papa Ray when speaking with each other. He was a great man, and I very much enjoyed long conversations with him while drinking my coffee, telling stories of how San Francisco once was. He talked a lot about you and about your daughter. Ray talked about your daughter a lot to me, and it may be because we are near the same age, but he was so proud of her and her accomplishments. My father does construction, and I think that made Ray feel more connected to me since he did the same work. All I know is at times when I was stressed or missed my family, talking to Ray made me feel better. It actually encouraged me to pick up the phone and call my dad. I'm deeply sorry for your loss, and I will miss those long conversations with Ray. Your family is in our prayers. Brianne. And I've heard that sentiment over and over and over again. And through the years, he had a way of picking tenants. He understood people. And yeah, he'll be missed. Very much. Who else would like to share a minute?
Hello, everybody. My name is Steve Tisell. I'm my dad's undisputed #1 son. What can I say about my dad? AKA far more Uncle Fearless. I mean, how can you explain to someone if they never met him? It couldn't be just one word. Ray had many different qualities. He had a wealth of knowledge. My dad was a general contractor, master carpenter. He could build a house from the ground up without any subcontractors. He would hire equipment operators on the weekend. We would lay out batter boards, use 2x12 forms, place rebar, pour and reuse the 2x12s for the subfloor. He was a conservative before conservative was a thing. Every house I built with him, we used to shoot, survey the subfloor, and it wasn't more than an 1/8 out of level 4 plumb. And the craftsman in this room can understand what accomplishment that is. He was such a craftsman that people would wait a year or two so he could build them the house or remodel. He never wasted a board. If you could split a 2x6, a split 2x6 and a 2x4 blocking, you did. He was raised during the Depression where he never threw anything away. Well, back then, he made things that you could rebuild. An excellent mechanic. When he was a young man, him and his brothers and his buddies, like Chet Johnson, would soup up old cars and race them up in the hills behind East. Rebuilding motors, he had a talent for rebuilding stuff. I remember when I was a kid, he rebuilt the 63 Bug motor in the garage in a weekend. The only time my dad ever went to a mechanic, I believe, was for an electrical issue. If he couldn't fix something, he always figured out how to do it. My dad was a talker. I can't recall my dad ever not being able to keep a conversation going or let a discussion run dry. He had an amazing memory, and he could recall lots of things from 70 years, like it happened last month. He probably forgot more knowledge than I will ever acquire. He was a self-declared news addict and coffee drinker. Add those things, and you have an avid reader. He read Examiner, Chronicle, Lake County Bee from the front to the back page every day. His appetite for knowledge amazed me. And those of us who had the privilege to have a good conversation with him, I'm sure you would agree. As I said, Ray Tisell was never at a loss of words. He developed a great work ethic at a young age that lasted a lifetime. He worked hard his whole life. I remember hearing stories about him and his brothers where they walked to school every day barefoot in 3 feet of snow. Uphill both ways. Just kidding. He told me, you just need to keep moving. Don't forget to eat your oatmeal. He taught me how to work hard, which I believe is one of the greatest gifts you can teach your kids. One of my dad's favorite saying was, if you want something done, ask a busy man. I remember my mom wanted me to join Little League when I was younger, and my dad replied, well, he's old enough to swing a bat, he's old enough to swing a hammer. That's the way my dad and his brothers were raised, old school. They didn't think of what they were entitled to. They didn't think they were entitled to anything. If you wanted something, you worked for it. And they had commitment, responsibility, and obligations to their family, friends, and society. My dad was always willing to lend a tool or give advice, sometimes whether he wanted it or not. He did not do a task for you, but if you asked him, he would tell you how to do it. He was a great instructor. He was the smartest man I ever met. And if I turned out to be half the man he was, I would be extremely grateful. I could go on and on about my dad, and probably will keep talking about him in the future, definitely on the beach. Lastly, as I stated before, you cannot just say one word to describe Ray Tisell. In my opinion, it would take 3, at least 3. Why be normal? And if anybody is still wondering, I was my dad's #1 son.
Who else? Who else would like to share some memories?
My name is Chris Crowell, and I'm the brother-in-law. And Ray told me to always be my brother-in-law. we had a unique relationship because we argued a lot. We had something in common. I used to be an immersion Marine, and I remember when I came to the United States or Long Beach, I saw the big American cars. I got to get to this country, which I did. And I married Gunvor, which was Berit's sister, so I became his brother-in-law. Now, the first car, or second car I had was a 55 Chevrolet hardtop, beautiful, black and white, red interior. I showed it to Ray, and he said, "But look at my Nash." Yeah, I see the Nash, 1948 Nash. It didn't impress me. So, but he says, "If you don't know how to use double shift, you don't know how to drive a car." I said, "Well, in Norway, I drove it over north. I worked on it all the time. And I stick shift, and I said, automatic, with power brakes, beautiful." So we had this kind of a thing about, before I go on, I want to extend my sympathy to the family from both sides. I'm going to miss Ray, because we always had a good discussion, you know. But it was never, it was always harmonious. We never started screaming at each other because we had different opinions. And he liked old stuff and I liked the new stuff. You know, that was all there was to it. So one time I came over, well, I have to say this, he was amazing because when I lived in an apartment when I came, I got married, and suddenly he's building a house up in Daly City. And his own father said, "You're not supposed to build, you have never gone in the trade, you're not in the trade, you're not supposed to build anything." Well, he built a beautiful house. I guess his father, so I told him, I said, "Your father didn't back you up very much." He said, "Well, but I love my father." Well, you know, but after that, his brothers, even the brothers, said, "You haven't gone 4 years in the trade, you're not supposed to build." Well, he built. He never quit building, right, Stevie? Yeah. So that was amazing what he did, and but he liked all stuff. So my wife and my daughter, my son, we came up here in Clear Lake, and of course I didn't have a boat. Well, he had an old boat called a bellboy, and he said, "Look at my bellboy." I said, "That's not much of a boat. You know, you got to get a real boat." You know, and he talked forever about his. So he liked the old stuff, and I can see, you know, people like old rail cars, and he liked the old stuff, you know. And but I'm going to miss him, you know. I'll tell you, you know. And so he went. Very interesting guy, and he was very, like you said, he knew photography, he knew a lot of stuff, you know. And it was funny when I said he liked old stuff. The first house I had was in San Bruno. Was not a very nice neighborhood, poor neighborhood. It was my starting house, and I had a plane going over, and it was the time when they had big engines and loud, so the whole house was shaking. And then the railroad was down below, and when the rail car came by, and the plane came by, the whole house was going like this. And I said, "Ray, I gotta get out of this place, I gotta get something better." He said, "What's wrong?" I said, "Don't you see the poor neighborhood? Yeah, but they're nice people here. You won't find the nice people if you go to a better place." Well, I don't care about the people, I gotta get something better. And so that was what the discussion we had. He was right and I was left. But we had some good discussion, and I'm going to really miss him. And my deepest sympathy to the family, you know, because they loved him, and you know, we're all going to miss him. So I just thank you for letting me talk about Ray. And so thank you.
Who else would like to share a memory or an experience with Ray? Anybody else? I can bring you the microphone. You want me to bring? Okay.
My name is Denise Johnson, and we have gone back with the Tisells, gosh, since the 40s, 50s, maybe. Nels spent a year with my dad's family going to high school. Ray was more Oren's buddy because they were a couple of years older, and Nick and my dad were big as thieves. And I don't know, I don't remember a day that we didn't, talk about Nick or talk about the people who were from San Francisco, who have these cabins in Nice, and I don't know, I just didn't know growing up without this family. And we lost my mom in 2016, and he was, my parents had been married, 56 years by then, and he and Irene were right there. And I'll never forget Irene giving me this huge hug and saying, honey, you can't go around it, you have to go through it. And it has meant so much to me in so many things that I do in this world. And, you have to face things, and you have to accept them as they are, and you have to remember the good. And there was a lot of good with these folks. Ray came by, shared magazines, and his time with my father and my brother, and he was supportive until the very end. We lost my dad, and he continued to come talk to my brother, and he continued to counsel him and encourage him to remember the good times. And when you say practical, he was a very practical man. Things were as they were, and we need to accept that, and we need to enjoy our lives, and again, we need to work hard. And I love the family. I love you guys. I'm sorry for your loss. We're the seniors now. It's kind of scary and all that, but I'm so grateful for the time that we got to spend with these wonderful people who will never be replaced in my lifetime. They're just gone, but not forgotten.
So Ray was a member of Sons of Norway, which is where I got to know him a little bit. And I was impressed by his knowledge of ancient history associated with Scandinavia, and enjoyed the fascinating tales he told me about individuals in history. And they kept my attention. I always look forward to seeing him. So he was a proud member of the Sons of Norway, as I recall. Thank you.
There are definitely some Sons of Norway members here. Did he ever get you to eat lutefisk?
Oh, you mean the one? Yes.
Okay. And you still remain friends with him afterwards?
We got to know Ray not only because of Irene and when he would come to church, but we had the privilege of watching Lars grow up. Okay, literally, because he was in with us, Austin and I, in the Kanaka Fiddle Club. And so we watched Lars from the time he was this high, all the way up playing the violin. And anytime the Kanaka Fiddle Club would play, Ray would try to come with Irene and, not only support his son, but all the rest of us. And he was very knowledgeable. And of course, since I played the piano and he loved the piano, why, we would get to yapping about the pianos. And, but it was nice to know him because he was a gentle soul. And not only, like I said, we knew him here when he would come with Irene, but he would come at almost anything that he could get away when Lars was playing. And it was nice to see Lars grow up. I still can't believe he's a young man, but he is. But it was nice to know Ray, and we will miss him, Irene.
6 pianos? 7. How many do you have? How many do you have? How many pianos? He had 7 pianos. Can you beat that?
Oh, we only have 2 now.
Only 2.
Hello. My name is Travis Tisell, and Farfar was my grandfather. I'm Steve's son. And I guess I could speak for most of us grandchildren, me, Sebastian, Angelica, Lars, Ingrid, Leif, who's not here, Savannah. All of us love Farfar so much. And we used to spend I would spend every summer with him because I was raised by my dad, single father. So most of my summers would entail me spending Clear Lake time for about 2 months with Farfar, saying this isn't a military camp. We're gonna get up here and we're gonna do work. We're gonna do exactly what Lars is saying. We'd pull in the wheelbarrow with 2 people in front, 1 person back, doing everything. We'd be trying to get Leif to do all the work because he's the older kid. And
What'd you have for breakfast?
oatmeal every morning. until Irene was always, every Sunday we were able to get pancakes and eggs and bacon. And Farfar would still eat his oatmeal in the corner every single time. He'd take his oatmeal out of the pot and he'd eat it straight out of the pot, not to waste a bowl. And he'd look at all of us and go, that stuff's gonna kill you. This is what horses eat. This is what you should eat. But could sit here and talk about Farfar all day and how amazing of a person he was and how every time he was around, there was always something to do and there wasn't ever a dull moment with him. And right before he passed, he just met I have a Norwegian elk hound because my dad and Diana grew up with one when they were kids. And my dog loved Farfar. Doesn't normally like people, not much of a person dog, and he just stuck to him. And some of the last pictures I have of him and my dog out on the beach just enjoying life. So we'll miss you, Farfar.
Anyone else? Okay. We also will, again, have opportunities to share fellowship when we go into the Friendship Hall. Got 2 more hymns that we're going to sing, and this is the next one. This is My Father's World. It's number 144 in the red hymnal, and it's on the screen. Please rise.
This
Eileen has a poem that she would like to read. Do you want to read it or do you want me to read it? Okay.
Sorry about that. This is the poem. It's called We Remember Them. It's, okay. In the rising of the sun and its going down, we'll remember him. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we'll remember him. In the warmth of the sun and the peace of summer, we'll remember him. In the rustling of the leaves and the beauty of autumn, we'll remember him. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we'll remember him. When we are weary and in need of strength, we will remember him. When we are lost and sick at heart, we'll remember him. When we have joys and we yearn to share, we'll remember him. So long as we live, he too shall live, for he is now a part of us as we remember him.
What did you tell your friend? Can't go around it, but you have to go through it. But there is mercy. There is mercy, and there is love on the way. And for his family and friends, don't forget all the people who love you and love your dad. And again, present tense with love. We don't go past tense on that. So let me offer you a blessing and a farewell prayer before we sing our final hymn, and then go in and we're not going to eat oatmeal. There's a, or lutefisk. We took all the two extremes are taken out. But there are Norwegian meatballs I hear out there. So for those of you who love a good meatball, they're waiting. Let's pray. Loving, comforting God, thank you for Ray, for what he did in his adventurous, generous life. Bless him as he sets sail to his next adventure in your kingdom, where every journey is a homecoming and every great road leads to you. Protect his family, keep them strong, heal their hearts, and let Ray's memory be with them as they walk forward into new days, strengthened by the love that only you can give. We ask for all of this in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Now, the final song we're going to sing is Rock of Ages Cleft for Me. This is another old one and a beautiful one. It's number 361 in the red hymnal, and it's on the screen. Please rise. Go in peace, with hope, with joy. Eat your oatmeal. Stop and drink coffee with a friend. Tell people how much they mean to you. Read voraciously and don't stop being curious. Please join us for a lovely meal and fellowship in the Friendship Hall. Thank all of you for coming today. God bless you all.